And we are live. Yes, nearly made Ian do a spit take just before we went live. How you all doing out there, folks? Thank you for joining us here in the spoiler room. If you want to know why Ian almost did a spit take, head on over to our Patreon. Join our tier, very, very reasonable tier, and you can catch the conversation before the conversation. And there's over 320 some odd episodes of that out there. So plenty, not including the other stuff for the other tiers. But enough of my shill. I'm sorry, it's showing. Today, we are kicking off a new month. It's Roundtable Month here in the spoiler room, where we will be looking at films that involve King Arthur and the court of Camelot. And I've actually listed these in chronological order because it just worked out that way. So today, we are kicking it off with the 3-hour musical known as Camelot from 1967, based off of a very popular play at the time. And tonight I have a wonderful crew member, my right-hand man, keeps coming back for more, Mr. Ian Simmons. How you doing, Ian?
Great.
Folks, yes, I appreciate every single one of my crew members. I appreciate them, and I appreciate all of you tuning in because sometimes I just pick movies because they fit a theme and I've not seen them before, and so it's kind of a roll of the dice. And this wasn't quite a crit fail, but let's just say it wasn't a natural 7 either. So thank you for venturing down the stairs, pulling up a chair, and popping your favorite drink with us as we talk movie spoilers. Now, Ian, are you up to giving a brief synopsis of Camelot, or would you like me to do it?
You're going to have to, Mark, because I watched all 3 hours. I still couldn't tell you what the hell happened in this movie. I watched it like a Netflix show in 20-minute installments over the course of the weekend, because
Sure.
I swear to God, I would start it and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do an hour, and I could not do it. I'm like, this is literally boring me so much that I can barely reach for the pause button.
Okay,
So
I'm not even.
You first.
I'm not even looking at Ibidem. I'm not looking at any type of other summary. This is a stream of conscious from my brain. Here we go. So we initially catch up with King Arthur, who's about to lay siege to a castle because his woman, Guinevere, is inside with Sir Lancelot, who I didn't realize was from France. But in any case,
by way of Italy, apparently.
By way of Italy. So we flash back to the time when King Arthur first met Guinevere. He's in the woods. He's a reluctant king because, you know, he drew the sword from the stone and as a kid, and still not quite sure what he's doing. His buddy Merlin has gone to become one with nature, literally. And so, yeah, he's got this arranged marriage with Guinevere, but he's not looking forward to it. He's kind of nervous around women. Well, while he's in the woods singing about how nervous he is about women and not really liking being king, he comes across a woman who is praying. It happens to be Guinevere, who got away from her caravan, and these two, not knowing who each other are initially, immediately sparks fly. They fall in love, and then it's all of a sudden, oops, oh no, he's the king. Oh, hey, we do get along. This is going to work out. So boom, all right, they're married. There you go. So King Arthur and Guinevere now are ruling Camelot. Some time has passed. We don't know how much time, but suddenly the country is in dire straits. There's all these factions and little regions that are fighting with each other, and King Arthur is supposed to be ruler of England, but things aren't going well. So it's been some time, and so he's like, okay, tell you what, Guinevere, you don't need to put some clothes on, but I think I'm going to do Knights of the Round Table. So he comes up with Knights of the Round Table to unite the country by picking a knight from each region to be part of the Round Table, to where they can all be chivalrous and, put order over chaos, basically right over might, basically, or over fight. So they decide to come together, and hey, that's going to work out until a guy from France who's not even part of the country decides to ride his horse across, I guess, the Thames. I don't know. Somehow he makes it from where he's at on his horse to Camelot in Britain, and he's French. And he wants to become part of the Knights of the Round Table. So King Arthur reluctantly is like, okay, you got to kind of prove yourself before you become a knight because you're not really from around here. And there was a jousting between them. Again, another meeting between two people before they knew who each other were. So Lancelot now befriends King Arthur. He proves himself quite worthy of the sword and the joust, and they become good friends. Well, then he meets Guinevere, and then there's a few sparks between Guinevere and Lancelot. Not at first. First, she sees him as a braggart, over egotistical guy, but then so she sets him up by convincing the three best jousters to challenge him to a match at a festival. Well, two of them get beaten. The third one is killed, supposedly, by the joust of Lancelot. But Lancelot is being pure. He's a man of pure virtue, and he prays with the guy in his arms, and lo and behold, he is risen. Yes. Yes, I don't remember this part in King Arthur. I don't remember this part of from the legend at all. But apparently here, the old Lancelot can raise people from the dead, and so he raises this guy from the dead, and Guinevere just gets the hots for him. I mean, like, she's like, oh, dang, you just performed a miracle. My husband over here just created the round table, but shit, you literally brought someone back from the dead. And then King Arthur's like, oh, this doesn't look too good for me. And then some kind of time passes, a few years or something. And soon we come to find out that this trio of people, Lancelot, Arthur, and Guinevere, have been thick as thieves. And Lancelot has been fighting their Knights of the Round Table, who accuse him of being in love and having an affair with Guinevere. And then Arthur, who pretty much suspects that, yeah, this is what's going on, still holds up the imagery, and, he exiles his knights. Apparently he does this so much he soon doesn't have Knights of the Round Table. I'm almost done, folks. This is a 3-hour movie, okay? Now, the plot thickens. Out of nowhere, apparently, the illegitimate child or the legitimate child of King Arthur shows up. And he wants the throne. And he's the villain of this as he starts to cause problems amongst their knights who are already discouraged because Arthur is disbanding people when he knows the truth, and everybody knows the truth that Guinevere and Lancelot got the hots for each other. So anyway, things come to a head. There's knights that are fighting. Guinevere's found guilty. She's put to the stake. Lancelot saves her, and he ends up killing a bunch of knights. And Arthur runs away, and and then it ends with him talking to a kid who wanted to be a knight, and then it ends and we never see the siege on the castle where Arthur was going to try to get his Guinevere back from Lancelot. We never see that. It just ends with him happy that this kid was going to be a knight. and yeah, that's it. I mean, if it sounds kind of convoluted and meandering, that's because this film does do just that.
Well, was the castle? I'm already forgetting this movie, but was Guinevere supposed to be in there with Lancelot, or was it supposed to be the illegitimate son? Because I thought Lancelot and Guinevere showed up in the woods, and they're like, "We're running away together."
And that's right. No, you're right. That's right. in the woods, Lancelot shows up with Guinevere, but they aren't running away together. Even after all this hubbub and crap going on, they aren't running away together because she's going off with the sisters.
Right. And then she's like, well, maybe someday things can work out to
Right.
Arthur.
And then Arthur, you're right. Arthur is going after his son who has taken over the castle. But we think that's the twist, if you will. At the beginning, they lead you to think that Arthur is taking the castle because he's asking, how did we get here? And how is he going to take care of this person in the castle? And you think maybe he's talking about Lancelot, but he's not, because Lancelot, but they lead you in the beginning, but after 3 hours, you forget that part. So you're back to this part with the kid, what day is it? Christmas. Oh, here, take a shilling and go get the turkey, son. And, or in this case, oh, here, son, take a bow and go to the back of the line as we attack this castle. All through song. There's also songs along the way.
You've got Richard Harris, Vanessa Redgrave. I'll even give you Franco Nero. How do you make these actors dull? How do you suck all chemistry between two romantic leads? I don't think I've ever watched a movie like this before, Mark. It was literal, like it was medieval torture trying to get through this thing. And I can't quite figure out why. It's just like this black hole of chemistry that's evident from the first frame. Like the moment the movie started, I was like, something's wrong here. I'm in trouble. And that the whole scene you described of the beginning of them being in the forest and they meet each other, and then the royal guards show up and like, oh yeah, this is the king and this is Guinevere, and then they get married. That's the first 25 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
And there's like 2 or 3 songs in there, and like it's almost like the opening of Deadpool. I hate the first Deadpool movie. Love Deadpool 2. But the first Deadpool movie, it's a gimmick because like it's the whole the freeway thing. Right. You keep coming back to an hour and a half later, he's still staying on the damn freeway, like talking in flashback. I'm like, ha, but can we get something actually going in terms of a story? And I was waiting for that to happen the entire movie. And I was like, oh, I realize the story is about a loose woman and the guy who can't leave her. I'm like, this is not compelling at all. And you mix it in with like, oh, I didn't realize the whole like Arthurian legend was like a metaphor for hippies gallivanting in the forest talking about it's May, it's time to go astray. I mean, like this whole movie is just like, marriage, whatever. It's all about free love, man. And at the end, surprise, surprise, everyone ends up with their heart broken. I'm like, I could have told you that in minute 2.
Well, it's modernized. And what's interesting is apparently in 1960, the play itself was beloved. I mean, it makes me want to see it. And actually, I have here, go figure, on vinyl, because if you go to a thrift store, if there isn't a copy of Dr. Zhivago in there, there's going to be a copy of Camelot of the soundtrack. Those 2 soundtracks will be in every thrift store and almost every collection. And I actually happen to have both. I have here Camelot, the movie, with Richard Harris, Vanessa Redgrave, Franco Nero, and Dave Hemmings. And I also have the play version of Camelot. Now, check out this cast for the play version. Richard Burton and Julie Andrews. Then you also have Roddy McDowall. Robert Goulet as well is in this. Yeah. Roddy McDowall plays the role of the kid.
Oh, wow.
I forgot his name.
The bastard.
The bastard kid. Yeah, he plays him. Mordred,
yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
He plays Mordred. Julie Andrews obviously plays Guinevere. Richard Burton plays King Arthur. Robert Goulet played Lancelot, and Robert Coote plays the bumbling King Pellinor, who was in My Fair Lady as well. So, I mean, yeah, this one even had Morgan Le Fay in it. The this one, the play had Morgan Le Fay in it. So I'm trying to figure out how much they may have changed for the film version, because there's also 2 additional song tracks on the play version versus the song version, for the movie version. And it sounded like it was the knights talking about being not so frivolous guys, later in the play, which would have been probably a very interesting segment to put in this movie. The problem I had with this movie is, one, you don't really feel it. It feels like everybody's going through acting class lines. Like you're watching acting class and everybody's playing their roles and, doing their lines and playing their characters, but you're never really feeling anything between these 3 characters at all. Our main 3, which you would think you'd feel some weight between them. I mean, there's the tension, Arthur loves both Lancelot and Guinevere. Guinevere and Lancelot love each other, and Lancelot even loves King Arthur. So it's this weird triangle thing that you could do a lot with, and they don't do a lot with. And then entering Mordred as well. I'm like, you literally have a story with just these 3. You don't need to enter Mordred in here as well.
Honestly, I think Mordred was the best part of this movie, because with the love triangle, it's a casualty of this being. I'm not going to say it's because it's a musical, but it's because it's this musical. Every time people stop to sing, they're just grinding the story to a halt. The songs I don't think the songs are particularly memorable, and they don't really advance the story beyond what I had already picked up, like before the music started. I'm like, yes, I know this is where we're going with these characters. We're just going to pull over for it's like you mentioned there's an intermission in this movie. It's like there's 15 intermissions in this movie. It just keeps stopping the story. I'm like,
well, it's the thing. I'm not kidding. We jump around. We jump ahead so much in time, yet it's not conveyed well enough how much time has passed between your scenes or next. You don't even get like SpongeBob 3 months later or something. Anything would help quite a bit with it, but we literally go from the woods scene, which was 25 minutes long. We literally go from there to a quick montage of her getting married, to then a scene where she's bare-ass naked on some furs, and he's going over the map saying, hey, there's all kinds of chaos in my kingdom. What the hell should I do? And then she's walking around in just Vanessa Redgrave's just walking around in just a blanket, and then there's apparently some guys just waiting in King Arthur's bathroom to give him a bath. Like, it's so there's this scene where it's the 2 of them and they're singing, and the Queen Guinevere, she's just in her blanket, and he's talking about, oh, we're gonna do the round table, I've got an idea. So then he goes into the bathroom section, which has drapes, and then suddenly the drapes open. He's suddenly partially naked. And then when the drapes open, there's like 3 people there helping him get a bath. And I'm like, wait, have those guys been there the whole time?
I think so. And I just made a connection there. It reminded me of the Arthur movie with Dudley Moore, a different kind of King Arthur in a bathtub.
That had a bathtub scene as well. So yeah, it was, I don't know what they were trying to go for in here, and I almost get the feeling like they changed some things. Again, it makes me want to see the original play, because it feels like they may have modernized some things, because if the play was 1960 And then you look at this film coming out in 67. This thing has more 1967 sensibilities to it than 1960 sensibilities to it. So it makes me wonder because, yes, we have Guinevere, who is really portrayed throughout as this woman who is looking to soil her royal oats, for lack of a better term. And, we've got Arthur, who doesn't seem, I never felt his attraction to Guinevere at all, or any type of love or any chemistry at all. And Lancelot was always crying or near crying every time we saw him, and never really felt his feelings towards Guinevere either. I mean, if you want to talk about the three of them, the one who felt like a most genuine emotions is Guinevere. Guinevere, in most of her scenes, Vanessa Redgrave, of our three main actors, I think puts in the best performance of the three, playing a character.
I don't know if I can agree. I think they all, well, Nero is just kind of flat, but I think Richard Harris does really well. I think they all do really well, but the problem is Guinevere is the most consistently written.
Yes.
I
Okay.
didn't
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah. Her character is the most consistent out of the three.
I don't I didn't know anything about like the Arthurian legend or Camelot or anything before watching this movie. I've heard about the Sword and the Stone and the Round Table and Merlin, but I just never quite knew how they all fit together. I didn't even know that the whole like Guinevere falling in love with Lancelot and
That's a thing. Yeah.
breaking King Arthur's heart was like a thing, but I would be hard pressed to believe that it is as is portrayed in this movie because I swear to God, like Guinevere is always like whining about her problems and her emotions and everything. But then you've got King Arthur, who's always whining and crying about his emotions. And then you've got Lancelot always crying and it's like this movie was written for like uh soap opera moms or something like that, or like the fans of Harlequin romance novels. Like I don't recognize any like men in this entire movie. And that's just to say that especially when you're talking about medieval times, you don't get a whole lot of, I'm wearing my heart on my sleeve. No, I'm wearing a metal gauntlet on my sleeve. I'm going to shove it through your face if you try and make moves on my woman. Like, I don't get what this movie is supposed to be, unless it's some kind of a weird metaphor. It's 1967, based on a play from 1960, as you mentioned. But what do we have in the early 60s in America? At least you had Camelot with the Candy family, and they were all sorts of messed up with political intrigue and infidelity. So I'm like, is this supposed to be like, yeah, this is the modern take on Camelot because everybody's screwed up and they're screwing each other and they have no emotions, and here it is for 3 hours with bad music.
Yeah, the musical numbers really weren't that great in this. And maybe again it's the direction of the performance, because I was listening to both soundtracks of the Broadway cast and of the movie cast. Broadway cast did far better. I mean, it's still the same songs, but the songs seem to have just a little bit more to them. And obviously, I mean, you're talking Julie Andrews, you're talking, than the movie version. And maybe it's partly in the direction, partly in what they decided to do with it, but for whatever reason, this film is lacking a lot. Like there's all these things, these elements that play out in front on the screen, but you're not really feeling any of it.
And part of it, I think, is because the movie is interested in the trappings of the Arthurian legend,
Yeah.
but it's not interested in the politics of what it means to have like the knight. The whole thing you mentioned about Arthur keeps banishing or knights, and so there's
Yeah.
people turning against him. We don't know any of these other knights. We keep getting shots of the Round Table with all these people sitting around it, and then randomly there's fights and people on horses, but we don't know any of these folks. Like, what's their beef? Like, what's the relationship between men who came together from different kingdoms, trying to forge relationships and come up with a new system of justice and law and all that stuff. That's very interesting. And I hope that in one of our other movies we're going to be talking about this month, maybe we get into a bit more of that. But the thing is so focused on this terrible love story that you've got two conflicting movies. What it reminded me of was Twilight. You have the vampire genre, which is supposed to be scary and dangerous and sexy. And what do you turn it into? A terrible love triangle where everyone just complains about their feelings for 2 hours and looks longingly into each other's eyes.
Wait, one of the things that this film really felt, I mean, it was 3 hours long, and it felt like they cut out a bunch of stuff because you would jump around. It was like suddenly, boom, oh wait, this is happening now, and you're like, wait, where the hell did that come from? Yeah. Because later on in the film, Mordred apparently caused chaos on the round table to where there's knights fighting each other and there's horses standing on the round table that are breaking, and Lancelot and King Arthur come out of like nowhere and show up, and this is all happening. You're like, where the hell did this come from? And then you don't like address or anything. Arthur just walks away.
That's the scene where, like, yeah, I wondered about that too, because you're just like standing there, like watching from the shadows. I'm like, what are you doing?
Not really doing anything. The only person doing anything is the old king lord that showed up earlier, Pinot Noir. I forgot his name, but
Pinot Noir. I love Pinot Noir.
Yeah. Anyway, the old lord that showed up, he's trying to do something, but it's like, wait, where did this come from? We do this whole thing with Mordred and his motivation. We barely spend time with him. It's like they were trying to tell the story from the perspective of King Arthur, so we see pretty much anything that he is. But even then, they cut things out because later on in this film really just falls apart. You're hoping it comes together as it plays out, but it snowballs because there's this scene, because we've had Arthur who is upset because people are accusing Lancelot of him and Guinevere being in flagrante delicto, which they apparently maybe were. No, they were, because if you're questioning whether or not they were or not for sure, because they played at Lancelot's purity, we get this montage at one point of scenes we had not seen before in the film. Like stuff that probably should have been a scene in the movie gets instead added to a montage of how Guinevere and Lancelot kind of grew together, their feelings for each other more and more in secret, which would have been intriguing, but we only get it in like a minute montage. And I'm like, where were these scenes? Where did these come from?
I don't know. There's a scene where Arthur and Guinevere are dancing around his bedroom, and then like it transitions very quickly from them like swirling around and laughing to she suddenly like breaks out into tears and runs away. And I had to rewind because I'm like, wait, did I get distracted and miss something? No, that's just how the scene plays out.
Well, yeah, yeah. It's because they're singing that you have all this tension and they feel like they're falling apart, but then they sing "What Do the Simple Folk Do?"
Oh, that was one of my favorite songs because it speaks to the absolute gross elitism of these people. Oh, what do the simple folk do? I'm like, yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
isn't it great to be rich and powerful? I wonder what it must be like to be dirt poor. Doesn't that must suck?
No, I know. I heard the song and I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, because they're singing it in jest, and it's supposed to be showing like how these two are during this song. It's supposed to be, I know what they were going for. You don't quite feel it, but it feels like the scene is where Arthur and Guinevere kind of realize that they still kind of love each other because they share this elitism. Is literally, I'm not kidding, folks. This song, if you listen to it, It's about Guinevere and Arthur almost reconnecting as they talk about their elitism.
You could almost picture like Kim Kardashian singing this song to like, boyfriend number 25, and it would just totally fit.
And you're like, yeah, but then she runs off, and then it's like, because she realizes, oh wait, I love Lancelot. And then and I'm just like, wait, what? You know, because you think they're building up to a tense moment to where these two suddenly will reconnect. In other films, like this story where there's this triangle of sorts, it feels like this is supposed to be the moment where these two reconnect and actually rekindle their love, and then she is going to tell Lancelot, no, we're done. But she goes to tell Lancelot, we can't do this anymore. And then there's this weird segment between her and Lancelot, and then that's where she gets caught. It just gets, it's hard to keep track of exactly what's going on because a lot of it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Lancelot and her are together. They're going to call it off because they realize they can't keep doing this. This is after most of the knights have been disbanded, telling the truth that Arthur has been denying. And then they get caught by Mordred, and Lancelot makes it out, but he totally leaves Guinevere in the dust. After this sword fight, and then that's where they're going to put Guinevere and they're going to burn her. And then Lancelot manages at some point to have rallied all the disbanded knights, and they show up and slaughter a bunch of Arthur's knight. It's like, what the hell is going on?
I don't know. And like this entire time, at the end, you mentioned Arthur meets the little kid Tom, and he knights him or whatever, and because Tom's like, I've always wanted to be a knight. I don't know what a knight is, but I want to go fight for justice or honor or something. And Arthur's like, no, I want you to we're about to charge, but you're gonna stay way in the back, and I want you to actually flee and go live a great life, and use my noble example. Like, noble example. Like, this guy has spent like the entire movie being kind of trash, which makes it really hard for me to wish him well in this battle that we're not even going to see at the end. It's not like the tragic hero. It's just like the guy, he doesn't stick up for himself. He talks a lot, particularly early on. He talks to Merlin, the ghost of Merlin, talking about the old days of like when they first met, and Merlin kind of shows up in flashback, and he's like, as you mentioned, at one with nature, like communing with the owls. And apparently he taught Arthur how to become different animals, like a fish and a hawk.
Which is part of the legend, because that's also in Sword in the Stone, the Disney version, if you watch. Only they do it literal. Here it's metaphorical.
Is it though? Because when he comes back from being a hawk, like there's it's almost like he's setting down the ground like Superman. Then he runs into Mordred, or is like, oh, what are you doing out here? And I'm like, could you not have used any of these amazing powers in battle or in your love life to suss out what's going on right under your nose? But my point is, all these conversations with Merlin are about adventures and cool stuff that they did like years ago. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like it would have made a really exciting movie instead of, hey, remember all that cool shit we used to do? I'm just going to stand around here and mope and sing to this lady.
And they did. Later on, Disney would come out with Sword in the Stone, which was, telling of Arthur's relationship with Merlin. So that was like the prequel to this film.
It'd be like telling the story of Star Wars, but you like begin Luke's relationship with Obi-Wan after Obi-Wan's a Force ghost.
Yeah.
Like, hey, remember when we first met in the desert and you saved me from the Sand People, and then we went up to the Death Star and did all this cool stuff? Like, now I'm just talking to you in the woods.
What I think they're trying to get at, and maybe it comes across better in the actual play, is what they're trying to get at is Arthur's confliction between his friendship and love for Lancelot, and love can be interpreted in many ways, and his love for Guinevere, and how he's some small part of him's actually kind of happy for Guinevere and Lancelot to being happy with each other in some odd way. But in this film, that's really not ever conveyed. Arthur just comes off as just this weak leader through and through. You never feel like he's this strong leader. Even for his formation of the round table, we don't get that. That'd be interesting to see him talking to the different knights and forming the round table. The most we see is him talking to Lancelot. And then suddenly they're talking. And then at one point, when he finally knights Lancelot because of the miracle or whatever, they walk into this room where suddenly there's all these knights and they have a round table. And you're just like, wait, where'd all these guys come from? When did this happen? But you don't get any of that. That's halfway through the movie. We get the closing shot and fade to black of the Knights of the Round Table and Arthur sitting there. And that's it. That's where it's at.
Especially because the reason they established the round table is to bring peace to all these warring like factions. I'm like, yeah, you don't handle that stuff during the course of a long weekend. Like this, this is an entire mini series and probably years of work to make this crew come together with a lot of, I'm sure, really awesome, interesting personalities, none of which are in this movie.
And let's not gloss over the fact of while Guinevere is the most consistent character. She stays consistent through and through. She's like, way her personality and everything stays consistent through and through. But let's not shy away from the fact of she sets 3 guys up to fight Lancelot by flirting with them, basically. And I'm like, wow. And she's doing it just to get to see what Lancelot would do, being playful. And I'm like, wow. She's also the one that sings about Lustful May. Where if you listen to the lyrics, they talk about how the maidens hope that their mates, their men, get lecherous, basically. I mean, it's just, I'm like, wait, what is the song? What is
that? And that's the thing, is like, I don't know if I'm better off or worse off having this be my first like real experience with this legend, because I'm like, if this is how Guinevere of old is supposed to be portrayed as a character, how did anybody think this was a good idea? Like, the noble maiden Guinevere. I'm like, no.
And that's the thing, is I'm wondering if the time that the film that this was made, they made some alterations to the actual play, because the Lusty Month of May, though, is a song in the play itself. But there's so many things the way they handle this Camelot movie that just feel disjointed, that it feels like they picked and chose things out of the original play. But then, because I'm looking at this going, if it's a beloved play, it couldn't have played out like this movie did, because this story is barely coherent.
Well, I mean, but I could very easily see some tweaking of this story to make it interesting. Like, Guinevere is in love with Arthur. Maybe they've been around for a while, meets Lancelot, and she kind of has some fluttering butterflies because he's handsome and dashing and noble and all that stuff. Maybe Arthur's a little bit older. And then May comes around and it's horny season. And maybe she's tempted. There's people around her saying, just, give it a shot. What's the big deal? And maybe she does, maybe she doesn't. But yeah, she's like right off the bat, there's no sense of commitment or any kind of maturity here, but it's not portrayed in a way where she's going to grow out of it or learn something. She's constantly screwing people over, setting people up for perilous injury and or death.
Yeah.
And she's supposed to be a person that we hope our main character gets with in the end. No, I think the rescue at the end, the 0-hour rescue of her before she set on fire, was a mistake.
Wow. That's a bold. Well, what's interesting with that is, so Arthur at one point after the round table kind of falls apart thanks to Mordred, at the same time Arthur is coming up with the legal system, basically, of, you can actually, because he got tired of banishing people, but that's just their ways. Even though he's king, he could have done whatever he wanted, but beside the point, he established a new system, the law system, to where you could accuse someone and go to a court with their peers, basically what we know today as court, as the legal system, where you have a defender and a prosecutor, you have a jury who will pass judgment, not a king. And all of this going on, so they go through the legal system, and that's when she gets found guilty and is put to the stake. So then they're about to set her on fire, and they're waiting for the king to come out to say, yes, set her on fire. And Arthur's waiting in the wings going, did Lancelot come and save her yet? And he's like, I can't save her, because if I do, then I can't really cause, it'll delegitimize the court that I just set up. And I'm like, this is interesting, but it only is 5 minutes of the film.
Right. And we get a taste of that with Mordred, because Mordred shows up and says, it'd be very unfortunate if the kingdom knew about, Lady Guinevere and Lancelot.
Yeah.
And Arthur's like, what are you talking about? And because he knows already.
He knows.
And he's like,
he's
well, yeah, he's like, well, your woman is getting on with your best friend. He's like, do you have any evidence? He's like, no. It's like, well, that's not how things work around here. If you don't have evidence, then there's no case. And then Mordred's like, so if I don't have evidence, but I know people are still doing shady things, that means that they're still virtuous because I can't prove it. And he's like, yes. I'm like, yeah, that's great. But there's all this great, to your point, underlying hypocrisy and the formation of rules to govern people who are by their very nature imperfect. That's another thing that this movie could have explored, but no, they're stuck in this terrible love triangle.
Yeah. The ideas that are interesting are fleeting handed off instead to extraordinarily long, even for a musical, long musical numbers, surprisingly. Some of these songs, like especially the one in the beginning with Arthur singing in the woods, was longer than I expected that one to be, for sure. And even what do the common folk do, simple folk do, that's an extraordinarily long number. I'm like, oh man, they're still going. Holy crap, they're really talking about the elitism.
What movie is, I think it's not the story of King Arthur, but is a medieval story. And I think it accomplishes just about everything this movie does, but does it very well, is A Knight's Tale with Heath Ledger. It's also a movie that has a lot of music. It's the whole conceit is it's got like contemporary rock songs, but some of it's mixed in as if like the people in those times are playing the music spontaneously. But,
it's got the best opening for a medieval song movie ever, where they actually have the crowd doing "We Will Rock You," but they make it fit. It makes sense in there, and I'm like, okay, you've hooked me. That film hooks you with that.
Oh yeah, and the golden years during the ball, the clapping and the spinning. It's a great movie that talks about like friendship, nobility, good versus evil, where it's very clear like where the lines are, and also the friendship that comes that's forged in battle. I mean, that's all about like jousting and everything, but this band of misfits, you really feel warm at the end, even though William, Heath Ledger's character, has to go out there and fight the final battle on his own. He's not alone.
Yeah.
And that's what's missing from this story of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table.
Well, we talked about the little kid showing up at the end, because this whole movie's flashback up until we get to the part just before dawn where he's supposed to, we realize now he's not talking about taking it from Lancelot, he's taking it from Mordred, even though they don't specify a name. When the kid shows up, the kid says he wants to charge with the knights. And Arthur, now this surprised the hell out of me. Arthur goes, you do realize you're going to kill people, right? He tells the kid. The kid's like, yeah, I want to kill a lot of people. And I'm like, holy shit. I'm like,
ooh, is this a Vietnam metaphor somehow? I don't know.
no. And then Arthur seems overjoyed at this kid's joy for putting his whatever feelings aside, wanting to kill lots of people in the name of chivalry. And I'm just like, the kid's like 8.
I think he's a little bit older than that, but I take your point. Yeah, that whole thing. At least it wasn't himself, because like
True.
we see the young Arthur in flashbacks when he's talking to Merlin in the woods, and I thought he had gone completely around the bend, and it was ended up talking to his younger self at the end of this movie. But no,
actually, that is one of the moments, and there's, again, over 3 hours, there are moments of this film that I like. I actually kind of dug when Arthur was thinking back to when he was a kid talking to Merlin, and they do this wonderful shot to where they have kid Arthur in front of adult Arthur. They're dressed the same way, and he and the kid are doing the exact same dialogue while they're talking to Merlin. I thought at least that was an interesting way to do that. I was like, okay, that's actually kind of cool. You know, they don't. Go ahead.
Yeah, and they did a similar thing in A Knight's Tale, where they're setting off to go to one of the tournaments, and they go on a little boat with a ferryman and everything, and I think they move out of frame, and then as they come back in frame, you realize it's William when he was like 8 years old, and it was when his father was giving him to the guy who would be, he'd be apprenticing to. Great, the great transitions. I mean, I agree. That's the thing, is it's so sad because this movie looks amazing. It's got a top-notch cast. The music, although I don't care for any of the songs, like it's a really well put together production, but it's just,
which is
it's dull and it looks great. So I'm gonna coin a new word called Borges. It's boring and gorgeous.
It's Borges. I like that. Borges. There you go. Copyright Mr. Ian Simmons. Borges. I like that. Borges. Actually, yeah, you're right, because this did win this is an Academy Award winning film. It won it all for costume and production design.
Good.
Which I can see, because this costuming and production design for this film is amazing. I mean, the look is amazing. The sets are amazing. Even Camelot. It's only a model. Oh, that's next week. Sorry. But yeah, everything, all the elements are here for it to be something big, and it ends up falling flat. Now, this is done by Joshua Logan, the director of, he'd only do one other film after this, and that's Paint Your Wagon.
Never seen that.
Otherwise, yeah, before this, he did direct South Pacific. But he didn't direct a lot. He only directed 11 films between 1938 and 1969. And though it took longer to make these films, Camelot was his second last film. And this film just falls short. There's a film, we're not going to cover it this month. I'm sorry, we're not, because I picked odd ones this month, okay, for our round table, okay? So don't take these examples as like they're going to be different interpretations of the Arthur legend, which is why I picked them. I didn't realize you weren't familiar with it. Otherwise, I would have gone with a little bit more standard tales. But if you're looking for a probably a better directed and structured film that is basically this story, it'd be First Night with Sean Connery and Richard Gere. I've Julia heard of Ormond. Yeah,
right. I've never seen it, but I heard about it.
It's similar. The story is similar about Lancelot falling for Guinevere and then having to put his feelings aside to defend Arthur. And Arthur, obviously played by Sean Connery, because who better to play King Arthur than a Scotsman? But and Richard Gere playing Lancelot. So who better to play Lancelot than
Did
Richard
I was gonna say,
Gere?
Did he even try an accent, or is he
No,
just
he
being
didn't. No, he
Oh,
didn't. He didn't
he's
try
from
an
the same
accent.
part of England as Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner. Yeah, that's right. There we go. We want the completely non-British British telling of Robin Hood with Richard Gere and, and Kevin Costner. Kevin Costner is Robin Hood and Richard Gere as the Sheriff of Nottingham. There you go.
Oh,
But put the rest of the cast as folks from Britain. So everybody but those two have an actual British accent in Britain for a British story. Yes. No, but First Night, I enjoy that. The song is good. I mean, the soundtrack is good for it. Acting with that cast does well. Jerry Zucker directed it. So it's an interesting story. It's a drama. But that is how you do this story. When I was watching this, I'm like, this is First Night. Now, granted, both are based off of the Arthurian legend, and I'm not read. Well, I know I don't read that well, so I'm not familiar with the true legend of King Arthur. I haven't read, whichever interpretation is considered the first one. But as far as the Arthur movies go, I've seen a number of them. This one is like a Cliff's Notes, literally like a Cliff's Notes of a story, because it jumps gaps in time. Your characters, though, while there's gaps in time, the characters never feel like they've grown. And I think that's part of the problem. Is there's supposed to be periods of time in between our segments, our scenes in that, yet it never feels like anyone has grown or changed over that span of time.
right. If anything, we just learn more awful things about them.
Yeah. I mean, Mordred is an interesting character. I thought we would get more of him. I kind of wanted more of him because when he shows up, played by David Hemmings, this guy almost plays it like the Riddler. This guy just shows up and he's played it like freaking the Riddler as far as his attitude. Arthur leaves the throne room and he just kind of does. I was waiting for the Riddler laugh as he jumps up over onto the throne and then he kind of lounges on it like that. And I'm like, oh, okay. So we're going to start focusing on him and how he's a villain. And he gets like 2 other scenes in this film where we actually see him, 2 or 3. But
yeah. And that's the thing, is like, he's the villain ostensibly, but I was not rooting for the other people to stop him.
No, I wasn't either. I kind of wanted to see him bring down. I kind of want to see him bring down Camelot. In all honesty, I was like, that'd be something interesting. It'd be tragic, but at the same time, it'd be very interesting to see that, but instead, no, we stick with Django trying to sing, which he can sing. Django sings just fine. Vanessa Redgrave sang her own parts too. So mad props to them for singing their own parts and all. Like I said, out of everybody, I will say I like the Guinevere character and then the Mordred character the best as far as their portrayal and their consistency. And our main character, Arthur, I liked the least. And it's bad because I like Nero as an actor, but I don't know if he was miscast or what. I'm just like, him and Lancelot both, they could just be cut out of this film.
It's tragic. I mean, Richard Harris is a great actor. I think he's good in this. It's just he's not given anything to work with.
You mean Nero? Because Richard Harris was Richard Harris.
Richard
Oh
Harris.
yeah, no, yeah,
King
you're
Arthur.
right. Yep, King Arthur. Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's right. But yeah, he's good and he has presence. I think he works best in this movie when he's like monologuing to himself or like thinking or just kind of like off in the shadows. He's got a great presence and a great look, but everything around him is just, it's not good.
No, it's
Yeah.
not. And like I said, Nero doesn't. He does all right in here. Um, and it's an awkward film. This film is awkward.
It's funny. I was talking about the editor yesterday
Mhm.
on the live stream, and it reminds me of the one guy in that fake Giallo movie who he didn't speak like a word of English, or he spoke like very broken English, but he was like very handsome, so they want him in the movie. And Franco Nero struck me as being that in this movie.
Well,
Like he's got a great look, but presence wise, like no.
weirdest thing about Nero is he doesn't have the mutton chops or anything. So he's like baby faced in this, and you don't recognize him because you're like, wait, I kept forgetting. Oh wait, no, that's Nero. That's I don't like.
Oh, yeah.
He just does not. You don't recognize him at all in this. But yeah, I mean the cast they have everything. It's just. It's got I love the music. The music for it was beautiful. The score that they had in here. Not necessarily the musical numbers, but the score. We get an overture, which I forgot about overtures, but I liked that, and the instrumental music I really like, but even that can't save this. This film, unfortunately, falls flat from really start to finish, and it's just weird to watch it because you're expecting it possibly to get better because you're like, this is 3 hours, this has this cast, okay, you're starting off weak, let's get strong, and it never gets past mediocre.
That's why I had to watch it in all of these different installments. Now, here's the thing, and I explained this to you at our Facebook message chat because I was I think it was Saturday night. I was like, I'm trying to get through this thing, but I can't, so I'm just gonna message Mark. But I bought this movie.
Yes, I know.
Because no, I'm glad because I feel like someday I'm gonna be able to go back and watch it, maybe even like in one sitting. Someone's gonna dare me or like pay me a lot of money to do so. But it's because the reason I bought it is because it's 3 hours at a very busy weekend ahead. So I'm like, well, it's $10 for the rental and like $4 or $5 just or to own it, it's 10, and to rent it, it's like $4 or $5. So I'm like, I don't want to go through the inconvenience of having to rent it twice, so I'll just own it. I'm glad I did because again, I kept like picking it up here and there over the course of like 3 days. I finished it right before we got on got on tonight. But yeah, now it's in my digital library and I can revisit it anytime I want, Mark.
I was hoping to enjoy this better. I was really hoping because the cast and everything. I'm like, okay, here we go. And in the end, yeah, you get this mashed up, mix up film that just feels like it's really lacking something. It's lacking some emotional weight, I think, emotional connection. Everybody plays their parts fine. It's just they never establish anything to where you feel anything for these characters, any of them.
It's got a gorgeous album though. I like that
Yeah.
record that you've got behind you.
Yeah,
It's really nice artwork and
the artwork, that's the movie poster, the artwork and the movie poster and everything. You could tell they really went all out for the production design and everything. It's like the one thing they forgot about was how to tell a solid story. We got everything else here. That little detail of we want to tell a solid story. So there you have it, folks. Camelot. 3 hours. Doesn't have to be 3 hours for one. It's been done better, but this was in 67. So, I mean, this was an epic undertaking, I'm sure, for that time because of the production design and the sets and everything. It's just not, as far as musical goes, it's not really a great musical. It's okay. And everything's just okay. And this shouldn't be. The way everything is set up and it looks, it should be far better than what it is.
yeah.
So there you have it. Thank you so much, folks. Hope you enjoyed this. Next week, though, hold on to your funny bone, folks. At least some of you out there. We will be talking about Monty Python and the Holy Grail as part of our Over the Hill special. It turns 50 along with me this year. Yeah. So definitely a different film than this one. It should be a lot of fun to talk about. We're going to probably have definitely a bigger crew. Joe couldn't be with us tonight. You were here with us in spirit, sir. He's got some things going on, some good things. So mad props to you, sir. And now, as always, this is where I give my license to shill to my wonderful crew members who sit through films like this for the show. So Ian, go ahead, sir. Shill away.
Well, I'm Ian Simmons. I run Kicking the Seat, which you can find at kickseat.com and also right here on YouTube. We do, interviews and movie reviews and roundtables. We have our own roundtables. And we're going to have one on Wednesday night talking about the Minecraft movie. Sorry, a Minecraft movie. So yeah, it'll be 8:00 Central on Wednesday the 9th. So join us over there if you care to, and find me here every Monday night talking movies with Mark. Even things like this. And yes, despite my griping, despite the horrible tragedy of having to watch this in like 10 parts over 3 days, which is the firstiest of first world problems, I love talking about movies, especially the ones that are so puzzling like Camelot. So thank you, Mark.
Puzzling is the right word. So thank you very much, folks. SpecialMarkProductions.com. And I want to welcome all the new subscribers we've been getting on our channel in the last few weeks. Welcome. Hope you are enjoying the content. All our new listeners that we've been getting, our live listeners tonight, I appreciate it so much. There's so much out there for you to visit and pay any attention to. Our little sliver of the internet means a lot to me. So next week, yes, it'll be Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I'll be recovering from trivia, but by God, I think in 5 years missed like 3 weeks. So we keep going with this, but next week will be just that film I could talk about in my sleep and recite in my sleep. So look to next week for that and a big crew, and we'll also be spinning the wheel to see what Lusty May will end up being for the lusty month of May. So stay tuned for that as well, folks. Like, subscribe, bells and whistles and all that here. And until next time, we'll just say a good night, everyone.
Good night.
The lusty